as soon as you wake up and put something on you, and like you open your wardrobe, you are part of the fashion industry. Each tannery have their own recipe. So you have some tannery that will use 50 chemicals, and you have some that use 250 different chemicals. Some of the chemicals are very carcinogenic. Most of people produce the leather overseas because there's not as many regulation. So then what they do with this water full of these chemicals, they just throw it in rivers where you have kids that are playing, that are fishing. It has an impact on their health.
When it comes to clothes, they're not really thinking too much about, what they're putting on their body. They're just like, oh, it's a piece of clothing, but there's no ingredient list. It maybe says like, 100% leather.
First, you need to want to take the red pill. And once you are ready to listen and educate yourself, then educate yourself. But first, you need to want to see that we are all superheroes, and our superpower is choice. And great power comes with great responsibilities. And our big responsibilities is education. So we all need to educate ourselves to make the right choice.
Welcome back, legends. It's Callum here, your vegan nutritionist, and today we're diving headfirst into a topic that, I'll be honest, I hadn't really given much thought to before. We all know to avoid leather, fur, silk when it comes to making ethical choices, but what if I told you there's way more than meets the eye? Today's guest is the amazing Jonathan Ohayon, a true trailblazer in the ethical fashion world and author of the groundbreaking book, The Fashion Industry Doesn't Want You to Read This Book. And believe me, some of the information he shares in this episode will seriously shock you. Get into the nitty gritty talking about how things like genuine leather can sometimes come from unexpected and horrifying sources, like dogs. And wait until you hear about how silk is actually produced. Trust me, it's not as glamorous as you may think. Jonathan also unpacks the harsh realities of fast fashion, from the environmental nightmare of producing cotton to how those super cheap clothes from online stores are affecting the lives of the workers who make them. Oh, and leather. It's not just a chemical nightmare. The process itself is so much more complex and harmful than we may realise. This episode gets even more intense when Jonathan talks about testing cheap products in labs for DNA traces. And let me tell you, the results were nothing short of mind-blowing. One key question we dive into is vegan fashion always sustainable? Jonathan breaks it down for us, exploring whether some vegan alternatives really are the eco-friendly choice we think they are, or if we should be rethinking materials and pushing for more sustainable options across the board. This part of the conversation will definitely make you reconsider what goes on in your wardrobe. Jonathan is also the founder of the F.A.K.E movement. That's Fashion for Animal Kingdom and Environment, and the American ambassador for Shop Like You Give a Damn, making him the go-to guy for all things ethical fashion. If you've ever wondered what really goes into the clothes you're wearing or on how you can make better choices without harming animals, the planet or workers, then this conversation is for you. It's eye-opening, it's confronting, and it's exactly what we all need to hear right now. But before we dive in, I just want to say a huge thank you for all your continued support of the Plant Fuel podcast. If you're loving the episodes and the topics we're covering, I'd really appreciate it if you could hit that subscribe button, drop a review, or give us a star rating. Whatever your platform lets you do, your support helps the podcast grow and keeps us bringing you the epic guests and conversations you want, just like this one. Alright, legends, let's get into it. This is one episode you're not going to want to miss. Let's dive in. Jonathan, welcome. Welcome to the podcast.
Thank you for having me.
I think whenever I talk about a certain subject on here, it doesn't always affect everyone. However, every single one of us wears clothes. Every single one of us has to make choices on a daily basis on, what to wear, like what to buy. And we don't really often think about the choices we make and how it really impacts the environment. The way what we put on affects the other people across the world, and obviously animals as well. We normally only think, is this going to make me feel good? Which is obviously where you come in. But before we delve into the fashion industry, who is Jonathan Ohayon?
Yeah, hi. That's a wonderful introduction because it's true. I love to say that as soon as you wake up and put something on you, and then, like, you open your wardrobe, you're part of the fashion industry. We often see the fashion industry have something very inaccessible. It's reserved just for an elite, for rich people. Not at all. It's for everyone. If you have a shirt on right now, you're a part of the fashion industry. And so my name is Jonathan. I love to call myself an animal rights entrepreneur because that's what I do. I'm trying to do as many things as possible with always my value, which is veganism, in line with every business I do. And I'm the co-founder of Arsayo, which is a fashion accessory line. We started with a secured backpack, and now we have many different. We have funny pack, we have bags, we have wallets, you name it. And this leads me to create the F.A.K.E movement, which stands for Fashion for Animal Kingdom and Environment. And it's a movement, like I say. So the goal is to elevate vegan and ethical fashion by doing events, fashion show, uh, uh, podcast, and anything we can do. We can do conversations, conferences. We had a vegan fashion museum. We Everything we can do to elevate vegan ethical fashion, we try to do it. And actually, the end of I mean the last thing I did with Fake Movement is this book. The fashion industry doesn't want you to read this book, and I'm very excited because I was able to get #1 bestseller on Amazon, and that was an amazing news. So hopefully people will get more educated, because that's my goal, is to educate myself and others on the impact of the fashion industry. And now the last thing I did is being now a US representative for Shop Like You Give a Damn, which is the leading vegan ethical fashion marketplace, online marketplace. And I think that's pretty much what I do.
um, Congratulations, by the way, on becoming #1.
Thank you.
That's great. Um, I'm guessing you actually going out and writing this book. There must have been a need for this book as well, because it's not something that I've come across when it comes to, like, obviously you get various books on fashion, and from all around all around the globe. However, you don't really find many on fashion, ethical fashion, sustainable fashion. There must have been a need for you to kind of sit down and end up writing this.
Yeah, I feel everything I did since I'm vegan was made out of necessity. The fake movement I created out of necessity. We had these fashion accessories, but we couldn't find a place where we could proudly show our product. Either it was like sustainable fashion events, and next to us there was like sustainable leather, or like things that doesn't really make sense, that are not in line with our values. So I created the fake movement so we can have an event like this. I tried to look for informations about vegan ethical fashion. I couldn't find any. So I was like, okay, we should have a book. I never aimed to be an author. That wasn't my goal. I even think it started as a joke. Like I remember with my brother, I was like, I should write a book about it. And then I actually did it. And that's kind of the book I wish I could find before, because it takes hours and hours and weeks and months of investigation just for one topic. In this book, I cover like 70 questions, and each question could be an entire book on its own. We talk about, I don't know, the difference between the leather and the plastic, for example. This is like months of research. It takes you have so many different studies that you need to analyze. And yeah, I put all that in one book. I wish it existed. So that's the only reason I did it. It's always out of necessity.
Well, it definitely was an eye-opening read as well, because once I read it, like, there's things that you don't really consider or think of when it comes to fashion. I know myself, over time I've become more conscious of my purchasing habits, and I've briefly spoken with other people about mainly fur, because I think fur is a big thing in the industry. And obviously people are trying to get rid of that, and that's I'd say fur is probably the one piece of clothing that's slowly coming away in
Yeah,
comparison to leather and silk.
exactly.
Um,
I,
but yeah,
I even think I know why. Oh, sorry.
oh no, go ahead, go ahead.
I think it's because people see fur as a product on its own, and they feel like, oh, those poor fox, they are raised just for their fur, but they don't realize that most of animals is the same. Fur is not a byproduct. It's a horrible product. I don't even think we should call it a product. It's a horrible skin with hair on top of it, and it goes with we when we talk about leather, most of people know about all the different horrible carcinogenic chemicals there is in leather, but they don't realize that we actually use the exact same chemicals. I mean, not all of them because we need to preserve to keep the hair, but we use chromium. We need as well to basically to stop the process of biodegradation, so that like that when you wear the fur, it doesn't rot on your shoulder. So yeah, people tend to not realize that those two products as horrible. That's why I'm sure fur is getting banned now, but the next step will be to ban leather. It's just a matter of time.
Yeah, because I didn't think of leather and fur being the same thing, and I think it was a quote that I saw online. I think it was from you actually, which is leather is
Oh,
just the fur without the hair.
yeah.
Which, which once you think about it, it very much is. Um,
Mm.
and I hadn't really thought of it like that way. As myself being a vegan, obviously I don't buy like leather or fur, but I also didn't put those two in the same category. But then thinking about it, it is very much exactly the same. It's just it's gone through a different process. One's just been skinned, and
Yeah. Yeah.
and I think so. What is the issues with leather? Because leather is. I feel like after reading, there's so many issues with leather.
So do you have 4 hours? I can talk about hours about this. It's I believe my favorite topic. I actually even did a whole research. I conduct a whole research and study around leather because I never know where to start. But I think it all started when I saw dog leather because it's a thing that exists, dog leather, and mainly from countries where they actually eat dogs, which makes sense. They eat the dogs and they have left the skin, so they're gonna make product out of it. And then so basically how they do when they have this leather made out of dog, it's forbidden to ship it in many countries like Europe, USA. So how they do to ship those products in those countries, they're gonna create a product like gloves or very small like belt, gloves, shoes, pieces that you don't need a lot of leather, and they're gonna label this leather as genuine leather, which is true. It is genuine leather, and then they ship those products everywhere. So when someone buy a genuine leather made from China, Vietnam, I mean now there's more regulation, thank God, but back then you could easily buy a product genuine leather, and it was dog leather. There was no way to know if it's true or not. So I started to make research about this, and again, I can talk about this for hours, but I realized that the problem is way bigger than this. That the chemicals we use in the leather, the fact that we never know where this leather come from, then we don't know how many chemicals there is because each tannery have their own recipe. So you have some tannery that will use 50 chemicals, and you have some that use 250 different chemicals. Some of the chemicals are very carcinogenic. You can find arsenic, chromium. You have like horrible chemicals, and most of people produce the leather overseas because there's not as many regulation. So then, what they do with this water full of these chemicals, they just throw it in rivers where you have kids that are playing, they are fishing. It has an impact on their health. Those place, I'm thinking of this place mainly in India. There's many documentaries about it. If you put India leather, you will find a lot of documentary about it. And you see in those areas, they have the higher rate of asthma. You see their skin that is bleached, their hands are bleached, their shoes are, their foot are bleached because they don't have any protection. They are working without protection. They die at a very young age of asthma, of cancer, of horrible disease. So it has an impact of the human, it has an impact of the animal and on the environment, and then on ourselves, because then we put those products on us. And the same way you when you put a cream, you want to make sure there's no bad chemicals on it. But when you wear leather, it's the same. Leather is made to keep you warm. So because it's warm, it opens the pores, it makes you sweat, and those chemicals can go inside of your body. So people don't really make the connection, but yeah, leather is the worst. Oh, and before I get asked these questions, because I get it asked every time, the production of leather has 4 to 20 times worse impact on the environment than the production of plastic. So I say 4 to 20 because it depends on which type of plastic, which type of vegan leather. But yeah, the production of leather is way worse on the environment than the production of plastic. So yeah.
I think as well, like obviously people they will look at the back of a packaging of food, for instance, and like they get scared if they see there's more like than 20 ingredients, then they don't know what it is. But happily,
Exactly.
like something that says let's say genuine leather, but genuine leather doesn't have it doesn't have a list of ingredients that have been put into this. So I think
Yeah.
if like do you think if people had like a list of ingredients that came with like a let's say a leather jacket,
Yeah.
that people would be a bit more cautious about what they're putting on. But so, as you said, there's so many different chemicals that you're sticking onto your body, and so many
Yeah.
people are more cautious about what's that they're sticking on their face with cream. People are more cautious about what they're putting in their body with food. But when it comes to clothes, they're not really thinking too much about what they're putting on their body. They're just like, oh, it's a piece of clothing, but there's no ingredient list. It maybe says like 100% leather, but or 100%
Mm.
cotton, but doesn't actually say what the process has gone through to create this piece of product.
Yeah. I totally agree. It's like if you buy a piece of bread, you look at the ingredient and it say bread. That's the ingredient. So I want to believe that people, if they knew all those ingredients, they will actually stop. Uh, Unfortunately, you still have people buying food without really knowing what it is. People check the ingredient, it's a natural flavor. We don't know what it is. We don't know what it means, but we still eat that. So if we are ready to eat the thing, what else we are ready to do? So I really think it's more about education and really understanding the process and the impact of it. And then once we know it, we don't want to be a part of it. We don't want to buy a piece of leather when we know all the harms it can give, not only to the environment, but to humans, to literally to kids. So yeah.
I think as well what I've learned is, especially after reading this, is that leather is far from natural because everybody assumes it's just a natural byproduct.
Yeah.
However, it's so far from natural by the time it actually gets to what it is. Or people assume it's still natural, but there is everything that's gone into it. So if it was still natural, it'd still be like a hide, for instance.
Yeah. Yeah, and I mean, saying that leather is natural, it's like saying that plastic is a natural chemical reaction of petroleum and alcohol, which is true. It's plastic is natural. It's petroleum oil is natural. So it's kind of the same. And when we start saying that, we're like, oh yeah, actually it's true. It doesn't make sense to say that it's natural. What is natural is the skin of the animal, because if you throw it, it will naturally biodegrade. But we don't want a product to biodegrade, so we want to put all these chemicals that are made to bleach the color of the skin to make sure that it doesn't biodegrade anymore. Many people like to say, "Oh, leather is amazing because it's naturally biodegradable." So if it is, why it lasts for centuries? Leather is actually made not to biodegrade. We stop the process of biodegrading, so it's actually really bad for the environment. So yeah, it's far from natural.
I think as well when it comes to leather that it's not just the issue of like the animal or the tanning process. You also have to look that overseas where these things have been created. You normally have an underpaid child in a third world country covered in chemicals,
If paid
creating
at
the
all.
thing for you,
Yeah.
and they're getting paid what very very low wages to create something that when it gets shipped over to wherever we are, you then buy it for like 1,000 times the price. We've got this product and we don't really think too much into it, to be fair.
Mm. Yeah, I actually made a calculation in my book on how you can have a t-shirt for $9.99. And I traced back the price. So if we sell it for $9.99, we need to make a margin. So we need, I say random number right now, but I put it on the book. Let's say you need to buy the product for at least 2.5. You need to make a margin of at least 2.5 in order to have a sustainable business in the fashion industry. That's what most of people do. So you have to buy the t-shirt for like, I don't remember the number, but something like $4, $3. So then in order to buy this product, the manufacturer need to make a margin as well. And then going when you reverse in January and you go back like that, you are left over with 16 cents to pay the worker. It's something about this. I need to check again to know the exact price, but it was something around 16 cents. So to make a shirt, for example, it takes about 20 minutes, 30 minutes. So even if you multiply by two, you get paid 30 cents per hour if you get this money, because most of the time they often not even get money. So it's not sustainable money wise to have those products for this price. Does someone have to pay the price? And usually as it's those people, yeah, they don't get any money from it.
Yeah, because I think if we had a system in, like, let's say the States or Australia or UK where someone was getting paid 16 cents an hour, for instance, people would be in uproar. But when it's not in our country or our countries,
Right.
people don't care so much because they don't think about it. And I think this is where,
Yeah.
like, brands like Temu, for example, like,
Like,
that is fast fashion.
oh,
Like,
Timo.
there's no way like ethical in any way, and they're making things so cheap, and it appeals to more people because in a society at the moment we have a big like cost of living crisis all around the world, and obviously these
Mm.
things are so cheap. And I actually went on there to check like how cheap things are, and basically, with all the deals they're giving away, and like, they're basically giving everything away near enough for free.
Yeah.
You get things that are like, $2. I'm like, when is something is $2? The person that's being paid to make that is basically on nothing if you can sell something that cheap.
Mm. But I don't think people don't care. I think people just don't make the connection. It's like when you talk about veganism, people tend to not realize what they are doing. Because if you make the connection and you explain them what is in their plate, they start to realize that they don't want to be a part of it. And I feel like fashion is the same. You buy those products because you feel, oh, it's cheap, and you don't realize you live in a different world. And once you open your eyes on this, you of course you don't want to. I never talked to someone that told me, yes, but I don't care. I don't care if it's a kid who did that. I'm gonna buy it anyway. Like once you talk to them, they always have a little feeling of guilt and they don't want to do it anymore, and which is good. So I believe I don't think people don't care. I think they just don't want to know.
Yeah, I think people like that blissful ignorance. Like,
Yeah.
especially when it comes to what they're eating or what they're wearing, if they can't see it and it doesn't affect them, and that's basically.
Right.
And I think I was like that for many years as well. I've brought things very cheap from like very fast fashion brands in the past. I'm now very conscious about what I'm wearing or what I'm putting on my body, or trying to shop secondhand. Sometimes it's not always available.
Yeah.
Sometimes there's things that you do need to buy. However, I feel like, yeah, it's just making those more conscious choices.
Mm. Yeah, and don't be too hard on yourself. I always tell to people, start somewhere, but start today, uh, as little as possible. But do this first step, because once you do one step, it's very easy to put the other one and another one. But yeah, don't be too hard on yourself. Don't try to go from here to literally on being the most sustainable person in the world, which is probably impossible. So yeah, just do whatever you can, but at least do it.
I think as well, like, you do get a lot of companies. Like, when you go into a shop and you're looking to buy clothes, there is a lot of greenwashing these days on
Oh yeah.
on different labels. Like, this is sustainable, this is ethical, this is made from, like, 100% recycled plastic or fabric.
Yeah.
And how do we get around that? Because most people aren't educated enough to know that this is clearly
Yeah.
greenwashing. Obviously, like there's these. We have a company back in the UK called Primark, and Primark sells clothes very, very cheap, and they're always like, oh, they've made a pledge, I think, to make things a bit more sustainable, a bit more, ethically friendly, but at the same time, still cheap. And I think the clothes are made in like Bangladesh or Vietnam at the same time.
Yeah.
So how do we get around these greenwashing ethical labels? Like, what do we have to look out for?
First, you need to want to take the red pill. And once you are ready to listen and educate yourself, then educate yourself. But first, you need to want to see it because, yeah, like you say, a lot of company will say, "Oh, we are in this sustainable." I don't know how they will call it. They will always find perfect name. This collective sustainable enrollment for a better world or something. And then you read about it, and it's basically just them having a class of sustainable fashion, but they don't do any change. And they say, "Oh, our goal is to be better in 2040," whatever. But those are greenwashing, and you need to be willing to look to face them, because most of people, they are happy and they're like, "Oh, look, but they say they are doing this, so now we can keep buying at them." So first, you need to want to look at this straight in their face. And once you're ready for it, then yeah, educate yourself. Read my book, or or make the research I did. You have many documentaries. You have many. You can make Google research. You can, from Google, you can go to the actual studies and read the entire studies. There's so many studies, so many sustainable fashion companies, or even just, I mean, you have so many studies. You just put studies and you will find them even on Google. So it's very accessible. All these information are accessible. And yeah, educate yourself. I love to say, I always hear myself saying the same thing over again, but I felt this is so true, that we are all superheroes and our superpower is choice. And great power comes with great responsibilities. And our big responsibilities is education. So we all need to educate ourselves to make the right choice.
I love that, throwing in a Spider-Man quote as well.
Yeah.
But it's so
I
true as
should do this
well.
video with the music of Spider-Man on the back.
That'll be the trailer.
Yeah.
Like, I also feel that you can't rely on companies to do these things as well. It has to be from the consumer side to create, the demand for these things, like shopping with certain brands or products. But at the same time, we're it's kind of having that knowledge there to, let's stop buying this, because once we stop buying this company will then see and hopefully make changes. But I think when you have, like, I don't know if you have Boohoo and ASOS in the States, but obviously they most of the time they have like a 70% off sale and like next day delivery, and that's what draws people in.
Yeah,
And because they don't want to pay that full price, and maybe don't want to pay that 5 to 6 business days, or wait for that.
yeah.
So they're still creating this demand, because they know people need that urgency these days. But if people kind of step back and kind of had a look at what they were buying, I think things would change quite drastically with these companies once they realize, oh, we can't keep sustaining this because people aren't buying from us anymore.
Mm. Yeah, and realize that you cannot buy your happiness. Happiness is a choice. It's not something you buy. It's something you are. And a lot of people, they think that because you have this little feeling that when you buy something, you feel better, this little adrenaline. But this goes away very fast. There are actually many stories, many studies that shows it. I actually talk about it in the book as well. If buying new clothes can actually make us happy, and yes and no. Like buying fast fashion definitely don't make us happy. There's many studies that proves it, and yeah, it's true that having new clothes can make us feel good, but it's not. That's not the way you will be happy. Like, yeah.
I've come to realize this, especially lately, is the fact that it's like, oh, in my head, I'm like, I want this thing, I need this thing, and
Yeah.
then I purchase this thing. I'm like, I'm
Yeah.
like,
If you didn't saw it 10 minutes before, you will not have feel like I need that. So
yeah.
yeah.
like once you have it, it's that kind of like the sense of urgency is gone. The sense of like
Yeah,
you've then achieved it. You've got the thing, and I'm like, well, I'm either going to wear this or use this. And normally it goes and sits at the back of a wardrobe or sits on a shelf, and I'm like, in my head, I'm like, did I actually need that? Because I feel like I wanted that so much. But
mm,
if I wanted it so much, I would have used it more. But there's things that I have still that I'm just like, I use maybe once or twice a year. And I'm like, I
yeah,
didn't actually need that, did I? But I've just, it was that sense of urgency. And I think people get it in their heads that they need. However, like, but that's, it's marketing. It's marketing
yeah.
that's like, drawn us
But
into want and need.
yeah, but now picture this: you buy this pair of shoes that you're very excited about it. You buy it, you wear them, and then okay, now I have my shoes. You don't really much more excited about it. Now imagine you buy those shoes. The one I have in mind now is, for example, Moa. It's MOEA. I love those shoes. It's called MOEA. It stands for Mother Earth. And each shoes have kind of a story because each shoes is made with different. I have one pair here. That's why I'm looking over there. Each shoes has either it's made of grape leather. I don't know if they have pineapple leather, but they have corn, a different type of vegan leather. And on the shoes, there's a little. They write a little, not a story, but the principle, the value they have. So then, when you have those, you're excited about them. But on top of that, when you wear them, you're actually excited about sharing about them, sharing the story of it, on how ethical it is and why it's better for the environment. And then you want other people to follow this movement. So this is way more exciting when you support small brands or ethical brands. And when you buy fast fashion, you don't want you're not proud of saying, "Oh, I bought this in this fast fashion brands," and you're not gonna be proud of about sharing this. I never heard someone saying, "Oh, I bought this in." I don't want to name any fast fashion, but anyone you have in mind, "Oh, I bought this there." Like, people will be like, okay." Doesn't have a story, doesn't have nothing behind.
So what is the for the people listening? What is the difference between fast fashion and slow fashion? Really?
Slow fashion is when you put a dress very slowly on it. So fast fashion, basically, fashion used to have trends every year. Then it was every season, and now fast fashion is every week, if not every day. You have a new item. So that's why we call it fast, because it goes very fast, and the trend goes fast. Like after a week, it's a new trend coming. So that's why we call it fast fashion. Also because of all the production, it's always things going always fast. Slow fashion is the opposite. It goes very slow. You have, for example, our company, we have fashion accessories. It's been since we started in 2016, so it's been 8 years. We only have one type of backpack. So we try different alternative to leather. We try different fabric, but we only have one specific item. And when we have a new item coming, it's gonna be maybe one per year. We're gonna have a new item. So that's slow fashion. We're going more slow, and also we make sure that whatever you buy will last very long with you. It's not something that you buy and then you're gonna after a week want to buy something else. So it's yeah, it's more than that, but I'm trying to make yeah.
If we just round back round to dog leather again, dog leather is still such a wild like concept for me that these things exist. But like then I think about it. Obviously, some countries eat dogs, and then obviously there's going to be a byproduct from that. But is there a way to find out? Because obviously it says genuine leather on it. Is there a way to find out like if it is dog leather, if
The-
it is like a leather of like a cat or something like that, or is it just very much like you
yeah,
can't work it out unless you send it to a lab? And I guess that's also very expensive. I don't think that's kind of like a
exactly.
cheap thing to do.
So that's what I did actually for the book. I reached out to Veg Fund. They helped me to have a little bit of money to do that. Unfortunately, it's so expensive that I couldn't do it with a lot of product. But I bought a couple product from fast fashion brands, leather, and I had actually a mind blowing discovery with this. I'll share with you after. So basically, the goal was to show, can we have can we know from which animal this leather come from? So I reached out first to this person. It's the only person who did it. If you find another one, please let me know. I made all my research. I only find this one study, and it was for I forgot the name of the fashion brand, but a very luxury fashion brand that was doing chamois. I don't know if you know chamois. It's a type of deer, I think, and it was a leather made of this animal. And it was so expensive, this study, that they had to combine to join forces with Musée de la Radio, something like Musée Français de la Radio, which is the French Museum of Radio, something like that. And they wanted to analyze a piece of leather that they have in a piano from Beethoven. So anyway, they wanted to find which animal it's coming from. And this one person did it, and he explained me how he did. I had a phone call with him, a Zoom meeting, and he explained me that the way they did, they had to restructure DNA, because when you tan leather, you destroy the DNA, because again, the goal is to make sure that this skin doesn't biodegrade anymore. So they had to restructure DNA. The way they did, they compare to different DNA from the actual animal, and they try to find which one matched the most and to recreate the DNA from this. He will explain way better than me, but I'm trying to explain with my words. And he told me that even like that, they were able to identify, but they cannot give 100% certainty, because, in science, you never have 100% certainty. So there's no like an actual way to know. Even when you touch it, you cannot tell if it's a cow, dog, human. there's no way to tell. You might tell, oh, this look more like a young sheep, or this look more like a pig leather, or anything like that. But you cannot say with certainty. So I asked him if he could do this test for me, because I have maybe a couple. And then he told me that this will cost a lot of money, and that also it's been like 10 years. He told me something like that he didn't do that, so we will have to look again how to do it. And I explained him my project, that I wanted to see if it was dog leather. If I buy a product made in different country, labeled as genuine leather, maybe it can be dog leather. And I think I should have told him that, because then he kind of ghosted me. He kind of disappeared, and I felt maybe he got scared. He thought I wanted to do something like bad or anything. So I don't know. So I reached out to another company that do this actually in US. They are the only one. It's a leather research laboratory, something like that. And so that's what they do. They look with a microscope, and they try to identify the leather. So I sent them 5 different pieces of leather, 5 or 6, I don't remember, around between 5 and 10. And they told me approximately where it was coming from. And they were saying this one might be cow leather, this one might be this. And I said, but when you say might, like, can you say for sure? And they were like, unfortunately, the follicle are broken because of all the chemical they use. So we cannot say with certainty, but we can say which one it look more like. So it was a little disturbing, and something else that kind of actually was like a mind blowing. I wasn't expecting that. Is that I realized that something like 60% of the leather I sent, they had plastic in it. So either a layer of foam to make it thicker, and they have also a layer of polyurethane on top, so to make it shiny and to make it water resistant. So even when you buy leather, when people say, yeah, but leather is natural, plastic is horrible, and if you buy leather, it's better for the environment. Well, you have plastic in leather as well. So yeah.
So it's
All
just
this stuff.
really a concoction of just random bits and pieces to create leather. So you've got obviously the actual leather, and then you got the plastic and
Yeah.
various other ingredients, chemicals, and all sorts. It's not just straightforward as people think.
Mm. And a lot of people say, yeah, but because now there are some leather, that vegan leather, that are biodegradable, that are made from plants, from bark of trees, that are made from many different things that are 100% biodegradable, but they are quite expensive compared to plastic, of course. And many people told me that, yeah, but this is more expensive than leather. But no, because if you take a cheap leather, you will have plastic as well. So if you want a high quality leather, it will be about the same price. So it's not true when people say that vegan alternatives are more expensive. Or, yeah, it depends what you compare with. If you compare a cheap leather with a cheap plastic, plastic is cheaper. If you compare a very high luxury leather with very biodegradable, high luxury vegan alternative, the alternative is better and cheaper.
I think as well, like I've seen, especially in the last few years, more and more of these, vegan fashions as well. Like you're seeing like immense progress in like, apple cork, cactus. There was pineapple leather, I think, as well. There's
Yeah,
also now, and these things are also like non-biodegradable as well. Like, yeah, you're not going to have a wallet that's just going to like disappear in your like pocket.
yeah,
These things exist, and like if you can make a choice to have something that has the same qualities as leather, however, there's no harm involved. Why wouldn't you make that choice? Like, I would rather have
mm,
a wallet, for instance, made out of like cactus or apple fabrics,
mm,
because I feel like that's more of an achievement to create something like that as well. Like,
yeah,
like the whole leather thing's been, and how long they've been doing that for, thousands of years. However, it's time for a bit of change. Like, have something
exactly.
that's, taken a lot more thought and a lot more effort into, because who would have thought that you could make a jacket from apples?
Yeah. And I think it's because people see leather as a byproduct. So they think they actually do something good because they recycle this piece of, of skin that will otherwise be left in the trash, which is completely false. It's not a byproduct, it's a co-product. So the difference is a byproduct will be, for example, if you harvest cotton, the cotton flower, you have the cotton, and you are left over with the cotton seeds. Those seeds are byproduct. Now, if you crush those seeds and you make oil out of it, so you have a whole process to transform those seeds in another product, this is considered a co-product because there's another production behind. And that's what is leather. You don't take the skin of the animal, which is the byproduct, and wear it or eat it. No, what you do, you use 250 different chemicals, you go through a whole process to make a brand new product. So we say co-product. For me, it's actually a brand new product. So yeah, when people make the connection, they finally realize, and that's why I love to use the example of dog leather, because dog leather is it's the same. They are the countries that are making dog leather, they are actually eating those animals. So why are you shocked about wearing dogs? But it's totally fine to wear cows, you know. And if you worry about sustainability, so how about human leather? I love to say that, but that would be maybe the most ethical. When we die, we can take the skin of human and make bags out of it. And of course, it's disgusting. That just the way of thinking about it, it's scary, you know. But that can help us to connect.
Yeah, I doubt anybody's gonna go and try make a jacket out of that nan. But
Yeah.
yeah.
Actually, someone did it. There's a so it's a student and she wanted to prove a point. So she that's the story she say, but it's not entirely true. But she took a hair from Alexander McQueen and from the she extract the DNA and was able to recreate leather from Alexander McQueen DNA. And basically, the idea was to wear a bag from this amazing, this famous designer. And the whole point was to show. So a lot of people get into her saying that it's horrible what she did. I talk about it on the book as well, but on the fake movement, I have an article. If you put human leather fake movement, you can find the article. And a lot of people came out at her saying, why you do that? It's horrible, human leather, are you crazy? But the point was to show that we can take the DNA of a person, because she find a piece of hair of this designer, and use the DNA. and she never had any legal repercussion out of it. And then she tried to make people realize that that's kind of what we do with animals. We use their DNA, who they are, and we make it into product. And the next step will be maybe to do with human, which is horrible. But that was her point here. So yeah.
Yeah, I think we're now just using them as commodities, but it's a huge thing over here because obviously in Australia they do eat kangaroo, and we do see that Adidas use kangaroo leather for their shoes, and then
Yeah.
people are in uproar about that, but that's no different from a cow, and I think it's just understanding your values really. It's understand like you have the values towards like maybe feeling bad about wearing some shoes made from a kangaroo. But when it comes to wearing a jacket made from a cow, it's not an issue for people. I think
Yeah.
it's just understanding the values of different animals towards different people. Some people care more about like a kangaroo than they do a cow, whereas people care more about like a cow and like they go for the apple alternative or the leather, the like pineapple leather.
Yeah. There is actually a documentary called Kangaroo about that.
Oh, there is.
Yeah. I can send it to you if you want. I can maybe find it here because I talk about it in the book as well. And it's kangaroo leather. Uh, okay. I'm checking in the source. I have it. I just need to know the name of the person who wrote it. I mean, who did it? Yeah, McIntyre, Kate McIntyre, and Michael McIntyre, Intyre.
Oh yeah,
And
definitely.
the name is Kangaroo: A Love-Hate Story.
Oh, I definitely looked it up afterwards.
Yeah,
It sounds like something I.
it's a very difficult documentary to watch, but it's very important one. Yeah.
I feel like all those documentaries, no matter what angle you're looking at, like you're looking at it, whether it be like the food or the fashion or anything, they're always very difficult to watch. There's no,
Yeah.
there's
This
not
one cover it,
much.
it cover it all. Yeah, this one cover it all. They talk about the kangaroo meat, kangaroo leather, about the story behind how they make people believe that kangaroo was a pest and we need to kill them all. And basically, I won't explain as good as the documentary, but it's an amazing documentary. Yeah.
So when it comes to vegan fashion, like that's not always sustainable either. Like I think
So,
we all have to kind of like, although our ethics are in the right place, when it comes to sustainability of it, it's not always as it's not even as easy as we make it out to be. Like obviously, some vegan leather is literally just plastic, and that's also more harmful. And then obviously, you're going to be at a crossroads between people because people will be like, "Oh, we'll just go for the leather because this is like it's natural, quote unquote natural," and then people will be like, "Oh no, but like maybe we should go with the plastic instead." However, it just seems that like there's no in between sometimes with some people.
yeah, even cotton. If you buy conventional cotton full of pesticide, it's as well like genetically modified cotton seeds that make cotton full of pesticide that is horrible for the people harvesting the cotton. Like even cotton can be bad. That's why you have a lot of fast fashion brands that are saying, "Oh, those products are vegan, $3 a t-shirt," but it's doesn't mean that it's sustainable. I always say vegan fashion is not always sustainable, but sustainable fashion should always be vegan.
No,
In
that
order to be sustainable, a product has to be vegan, but it doesn't work the other way around.
Yeah, I think I think from both sides, like there's greenwashing on either
Yeah,
side. There's obviously we're like, oh, this is more sustainable, but it will be plastic, and I'm just like, well, no, that's not really sustainable, like this plastic bag. But at the
yeah,
same time, I feel like we can from both sides of the argument, like we both have unsustainable things, and there needs to be a meet in the middle. And obviously that's where you're coming in and educating. To be fair,
yeah.
when it actually comes to cotton, what is the difference between like obviously natural cotton and like organic cotton?
So wait, I just want to add one little point of
Go ahead.
what we said earlier, and I answer this. It's to give an idea of a vegan not always being sustainable. It's like with food, we always associated vegan with being healthy, but you can be vegan and eat only French fries all day and chips. So yeah, just it's kind of the same. We always associate vegan with the wrong thing. The goal is not, when someone is vegan, is not just to be healthy or just to be good for the environment. It's a lifestyle, and the main goal of veganism is uh, to take care of the animals. But yeah, so organic cotton versus conventional cotton. So it's like organic food versus conventional food. So organic cotton makes sure that it's not genetically modified. It uses a lot less water, and it doesn't use pesticide. So people that are harvesting the cotton are not in risk of asthma and cancer and all those diseases that the pesticide can give. And organic cotton usually actually help those villages. That's why the villages where people are harvesting. So that's why it's always important to check the label. But yeah, it doesn't stop here. It's yeah, it's but yeah, I'm trying to I don't want to give too much information to not scare people away. But there's also where the cotton come from, because if it come from a place where there's more rain, for example, it's actually better because it use even less water. So yeah, but let's keep it simple. Organic cotton, good, no pesticide, and better for the environment, better for our health. We don't want to have pesticide in our clothes and chemicals. Conventional cotton, not good, pesticide, genetically modified.
I think as well, people seem to like if they're worried about leather or they're worried about fur, um, they're not so much
So,
worried about silk, and silk also obviously comes from an animal, but people don't
yeah,
realize that. So can
yeah.
what is silk really? Um,
Silk is from a worm. It's from the house of the worm. So the worm build a house, and then they take away the worm, and with the house they make like little fiber out of it. And it takes a lot of energy because you need a specific environment. So you need to make sure there's it's not, I don't know, to control the humidity and the heat. And I'm not a professional I'm not a silk maker, so I couldn't say what are the exact requirements, but I know that you need a specific requirement, a specific environment. So you need AC, you need all that. So it takes a lot of energy to produce. It's actually, so when I was saying that leather has the worst impact on the environment, the production of leather, silk is number two. So right after leather, there's silk, and then you have cotton and wool, conventional cotton, because organic cotton, of course, is not that bad. And also, you need a lot of chemicals. So the most, not always, but most of the time, the most silky is clothes. The most soft it is, the most chemical it needs. It's like bamboo. You have a lot of bamboo that is very silky touch. It usually needs a lot of chemicals like rayon, um, viscose, rayon. All that is, I don't know if I pronounce it good. Rayon. In French, we say rayon. So this uses as well a lot of chemicals, but silk is, yeah, by far the worst, and it's animals as well. Yeah, we literally take the animal out and just grab their halves and make uh, silk out of it.
yeah, I don't see how that's any different from like us going along and taking a spider web and trying to make clothes out of it. It's basically very
Yeah,
much the same. It's coming out of the animal, and
exactly,
you're creating their you're creating clothing out of their house, and it's not really different from like a spider web as such.
exactly.
But I can't even imagine the amount of like of these worms, and I don't know how much they produce. I'm not like to know how much or how many of these worms and how much silk they need to create to even create like one t-shirt. And with like
Mhm.
obviously silk being such a huge industry as well, there must be, I don't know, silkworm farms, I'm guessing.
Yeah, yeah, and I saw a video where they were actually boiling all those worm that are still in their cocon in their house, and they boil the water, and then with a stick they take the fiber like that, and then they put it in machine that just roll it. Yeah.
That
But there's
absolutely.
many product like that. There's a shell. There's the pearl. Pearl is horrible. Pearl people don't know, but pearl people will seeing pearl as something that is very luxurious, because you usually find pearl one pearl in 10,000 oyster. You will need to open 10,000 oyster with the chance to might have one pearl. But now they find a way to create pearl. So how they do? They put a parasite inside the pearl, the oyster, and then they kind of mix. They stress the animal. They put in cold water, hot water, like they mix it to activate, the parasite, and it's basically create kind of a ulcer if we make it in a human way, and this ulcer is the pearl, and then they take away the pearl and they put a new parasite, and again, this is the life of the oyster. So yeah, pearl is horrible as well.
Yeah, I forget about pearls. It's not something I ever really kind of think of, but yeah, the pearls I think we forget come from like an oyster, and the fact that like it's not every day an oyster has them as well. It's just it's
Exactly.
one in a few. Um, and then we just take that and stick it on a ring or a necklace or something like that. It's just it's
Mhm.
wild that
It's basically an ulcer. It's like if we think any human, we're gonna take a human and we're gonna find an ulcer out of it. It's like if an alien come from a different planet and he's like, "Oh, I like the little ulcer. Let's raise human and create ulcer. Let's stress them so they can have ulcer." And that's basically what we do to oyster.
that's mental. I actually had no idea what that. I thought the pearl. Yeah, I had no idea how pearls were created, or the fact that they
Mm.
were just kind of ulcers of the of the oyster. I just thought they were just like this little ball that is just created, and I don't think many people know that either. I think that's just one
Yeah,
day.
no, I didn't know. I learned it by writing the book. I was
That's
like, "What about pearl?" And I start looking, and yeah, it's
I feel
shocking.
I feel like with the book, because you've done it's 70 questions, isn't it? So
Yeah.
like
And
how
but there's a whole chapter. I just want to say there's a whole chapter. The last one, it's all about solutions. So there is solutions. There's a lot of bad things, but there's a lot of positivity as well.
So with the 70 questions, is there more questions that could have been added, but you were like, I physically
Yeah.
can't do more without writing like a
I
thousand page book.
So my goal was to have 100 questions. And I think I wrote like 120 questions, something like that. And then I realized that a lot of question was answering other questions, and I didn't want it to be too boring as well. And there was some question that I felt might not be too important, so I kind of remove them. I don't want to overwhelm people. And each question is just like, I don't know, maybe 2 to 3 pages. I put the main information of each, because each question could be a whole book on its own. So I don't want to overwhelm people. My goal is just to open the eyes of people, and hopefully one of these questions will make you want to do this first step. And then the second one will just follow, and the third and fourth, and then you will be the most sustainable person in the world.
I think like if somebody's looking to become more sustainable, let's in their fashion choices, do you have any kind of tips for them that like a top 5 tips that people could start implementing today to make things a bit more like easy for them, a bit more sustainable in their lives. Even if they're not going to go 100% of the way, at least making those slight changes to make it that some bit easier for them.
Yeah, I'm sure just in this, if they reach this moment in the podcast, it means they listen all that. I'm sure they already find one advice that they can do, and just do it. It can be anything. You want to buy, I don't know, a new shirt? Okay, go to a I was about to say fast fashion. Go to a thrift store, to a second-hand store, and buy it. Find a shirt over there. That will be a beautiful first step. But it can also be something different. Like, for example, if you buy fast fashion and you love that, and you say, "Oh, but I need to buy my fast fashion item every month. Okay, so now buy once every 2 or 3 months instead of every month, and then slowly decrease and don't put too much pressure on you, and but at least do something. That's what I'm trying to make people to do, is to at least do one thing. Because I realize that as soon as you start and you do this first step, it's very easy to do the rest. So yeah, my advice will be second hand. If I have to give five, that will be probably the first. Now the first will be stop buying. Ask yourself before you buy this pair of shoes, this item, whatever item you want to buy, ask yourself, do I really need it? That's the first advice. Ask yourself, do I need this product? Will I really be more happy? Why would I use this product in the next 3, 4, 5 years? That's the first. Second, buy second hand. Three, if you want to buy something new, go to shop like you give a damn and buy something from support ethical, vegan, sustainable brands. Four, five, I don't know. It really depends on each people. If you love leather, I will tell you stop buying leather. If you love wool, I will tell you educate yourself on the impact of wool. If yeah, it really depends on people. I have 70 different tips that I can give. So,
So if somebody goes, let's say somebody still loves and wants leather, and then they go into a second hand or a thrift store and buys leather, is that then better than buying it brand new?
yes, but you still give an outlet to leather because it means that someone who buy leather can sell it on second hand because you are supporting this. Uh, when you really truly open your eyes on it, you don't want to do that because it's like if you buy a shirt. It can be secondhand, it can be organic, it can be whatever, the best ethically made organic t-shirt, but it have the face of a dictator or like a horrible message on it. Like, I don't want to say something bad, but whatever horrible thing you can think of, that's what is on this t-shirt. Would you buy it? Would you wear this that shows something that go against your value? Of course not. So even though it's super organic and whatever, so I kind of feel leather the same way. Even if it's secondhand, yeah, it's better for the environment, of course, but you're still spreading a horrible message. That's the way I see it. So that's why I know some vegans, very few, but I know some that have like leather shoes and they feel like I don't want to throw it. I prefer to keep it. Me, I couldn't. I couldn't because I feel I'm still spreading the message that it's okay to see animal as an object.
I was exactly the same. So I used to have a pair of leather Doc Martens,
Mm.
and as soon as I, turned vegan, I was like, maybe I should get rid of these. And in my head, I was like, oh, if I get rid of it, then that cow's just being wasted. However, then a few months down the line, I was like, this like I'm this means I'm still supporting, I'm still showing off the support to like people around me, and then decided to get rid of them afterwards. Um,
Yeah, I
yeah,
felt the cow will probably, instead of saying, "Oh, you get rid of me," she'll probably say, "Thank you for letting me rest finally in peace." That's the way I see it.
absolutely. And so, if people are looking to make more environmentally choices with their clothes, what has the best impact? Like what type of clothing has the best impact? Because obviously, it's not going to be leather, it's not going to be silk, it's not. But
Yeah,
is there ones that are better off than obviously? I'm guessing like if you were to look at a chart, leather and silk would probably be the top, and then
yeah.
wool would be there, and then what's the best options?
The best options, the most sustainable fashion items are the ones that are in your closet. That's it. It's that simple. You open your closet, you are all the most sustainable fashion items. You already have them. You don't have to produce more. There's so many. And if you really want more, then secondhand might be the best. Or you can also create new items. If you have this t-shirt that you don't wear anymore. So try to think why I don't wear this t-shirt anymore. Maybe I can do something else. Maybe I can print something on it and make it more cool and make me want to wear this shirt again. So yeah, I could tell you leather is the worst, the number one. Then you have silk, then wool and regular cotton. Then plastic it's better than leather, but still plastic is bad. So I would say buy organic hemp, organic cotton. Of course, if you want to buy new, yeah, there's all that. But first, if I have to say what is the most sustainable, is the one that are in your closet.
Do you
That's
think that
disappointing.
no, I think that's probably for the best as well because a lot of people look into that like wardrobe and think, I don't wear this anymore. However, should probably still be wearing it unless it doesn't fit or anything like that. Then you should be still wearing the. But you brought these for a reason. You brought these because you felt they looked good or they, you
Yeah.
wanted them for a reason. Um, unless you
Like
nan.
I say, like sorry.
I was about to say,
Yeah,
unless your nan brought it for Christmas, and it's one of those things that you really hate. Everything that you've brought normally is there because you want it.
yeah. Many people think that fashion is what will make you happy. Buying a new item is what will make you happy. Like I said, the best items are already in your closet. If you think it's a fashion item that will make you happy, so I don't think it's a fashion item that you need. It's probably a therapist.
do you do you think that because you grew up in Paris, didn't you?
Yeah.
Do you think that because you grew up in a very fashion centric country, you've obviously got like a lot of fashion brands, you've got, Paris Fashion Week, that this is, integrated itself into your life to then obviously create this whole entire movement because you've seen it firsthand from like, these Paris being probably one of the most fashionable places in the world.
Yeah. Uh, I don't know. I don't really see it that way. I see it like every place in the world it's seen as the most fashionable, but everywhere in the world there's fashion trend. Even if you go in indigenous tribe, they have a different way of wearing clothes that will identify you as being more important than someone else. So I don't think the fact of being in Paris or in another anywhere in the world you will have this value that you see on fashion items. And I think we need to completely disconnect to that and to review the way we see fashion. And yeah, whatever you like, whatever makes you feel good, that's the way you should dress, not follow any trend. And try to stick to whatever you like and don't buy too much. You don't need that much clothes. I don't know if that answered this question. I feel like I went a little out of the topic, but yeah.
So at the moment you partnered with a shop like Give It Down.
Yeah.
What is shop like Give It Down?
So Shop Lucky, oh, it's true. I mentioned it and I didn't even say what it was. So it's the leading, the best vegan, ethical, sustainable fashion marketplace, online fashion marketplace. It was mainly in Europe, and now it's finally in the US. So yeah, anybody who like vegan, ethical, sustainable fashion, it's very difficult sometimes to make research. We take a lot of time. Each brand that we onboard go through a whole process. We ask them where they manufacture. If it's vegan, we go to every detail, the glue they use, the button they have, if it's made of shell, if it's made of whatever it's made of. We make sure that everything is vegan. We make sure everything is ethical, everything is ethically made, if they have any certification. If they don't, we look into their manufacture process. Do they go there often? Because a lot of manufacturers don't have certifications because they are very small and it's pretty expensive to have certifications. So we make sure that they know where they buy their product, if they produce themselves or if they use a third party. And yeah, it's a lot of work, so it's very hard for you to do this work, to go on the website and to ask the brand, and it takes forever for them to reply to you. So now you don't have to do all this work. You just go on Shop Like You with them, and you know that any items you find, it's ethical, it's vegan, it's sustainable.
And Fake Movement as well. Obviously, that's your big brand,
Yes.
and your big project. Is there anything upcoming in the future? Because I know you do a lot of events. You had like the museum as
Mm.
well. What's next for Fake Movement?
So we just did like 2 weeks ago a fashion show with actually it was the launch of Shop Like You Give a Damn in US. So we had a fashion show with 15 brands from Shop Like You Give a Damn that were represented. So now I'm kind of resting from that, and we hopefully will have more events coming soon. But for now, yeah, I have a couple event like here as a podcast or like things like that, but I don't have an event yet.
Amazing.
But you can stay tuned, and I will
Yeah,
share if I have some.
and if there's ever another event when I'm nearby, I'll definitely come along.
Yeah, please.
So you've got the book. The book was an eye-opening read. I felt like I learned a lot. But where can people
Thank
find the
you.
book?
So it's on Amazon. I found it to be, I think, one of the most sustainable way to do it, because otherwise I will have to produce a lot of book and then ship them all over the world and do everything to ship them. Now what they do, they print on demand. So wherever you are in the world, they will print it next to the closest printer they have next to where you are. They will print it and then ship it to you. So this is why I decided to do it on Amazon. And yeah, it's called The Fashion Industry Doesn't Want You to Read This Book. And thank you for saying it's an eye-opening. That's the goal. That's what I want, is for people to realize something. Oh, and I can tell you for sure that there's no way you read this book and you don't learn something new.
Yeah.
Even me, I learned a lot of things by writing this book.
See, when I first read it, I was kind of like, oh, I don't know what I'm going to learn from this, because obviously I know how like leather's made, I know how like wool is made, I know how silk's made. However, it turns out I don't know how it's made. Um, all I thought was cow leather,
Yeah.
silk worm, and then you realise the chemicals and everything else that goes along with it, and then you realise that the fashion industry is a giant shit show, basically.
Yeah.
So, where can we find you?
Here in Los Angeles, you can, yeah, on Instagram, Fake Movement. I'm the one taking care of it. Yeah, I'm very accessible mainly on Instagram, but anywhere, send me an email, reach out to me if you have any questions. I'm more than happy to help. And yeah, how about you? Where can we find you?
Where can you find me? You can always find me on Plant Fueled Nutrition, or on this podcast, or on
Yeah.
a website that's changing very soon. We just went for a big rebrand, so it used to have a different name. So
Oh,
the website's still being built. But it turns out, like, building a website is so much hassle. It's so much
yeah,
hassle. Like, I had a website for at least 3 years of the previous name, and now that it's changing, I'm like, everything else needs to change with it, and yeah, it's the biggest hassle. But yeah,
and be careful if you rebuild it to make sure that each link you have are still working, because if not, you will mess up your SEO. Yeah, it's complicated.
exactly. Like, there's so many things you have to think of, and I'm like, this like the rebrand was a great decision, but at the same time, everything that goes along with it, it's just a nuisance. There's always something new.
Yeah.
Well, thank you so much for being here, and thank you so much
Thank
for your
you.
time.
It was a pleasure. Thank you so much.